Hello Internet, and welcome to my live reaction for Black Butler, chapter 185. When we last left our heroes, we finally got out of Baldroy's flashback. We had some more sort of ruminations on the sort of messy moral morass Baldroy found himself in, as he sort of acknowledged, even as he was, engaging in wars of extermination against the native population, he was aware that he was in the wrong, and that what he and his ancestors saw as their hopes and dreams was the natives' nightmares, and that the massacre at his village was in a way justice for all the prior crimes committed against the native tribes. But also he still kept on killing. It was a sort of weird thing. But then we went back to one layer of flashback, and Baldroy sort of reflected that whatever happened in the past, he's just going to live for the present now, whether it's right or wrong or whatever. And then we finally moved back into the real present, where Baldroy's like, yeah, compared to what I did, Ada, you're a fucking saint, so don't go around hating yourself. And then we see Ronald Knox behind the door, listening in with his Reaper journal. So let's start around in chapter 185, the Butler agreeing. And our picture here is Ronald sitting inside a watch. And there's all of these timepieces, hourglasses, clocks, watches behind him, tick. Surrounded by clocks of life that cannot be rewound. Chapter 185, the Butler agreeing. And we pick up right where we left off, with Knox sort of behind the door, listening into the conversation between Baldroy and Ada, and he flips through his journal, checks his watch, and looks back into the window, which might be him reading that someone is right about to die. When we last left the main storyline, or at least the present day of this subplot a long, long time ago, as I recall, there was some theorizing, or there was the bit where Lau was doesn't really matter what's right or wrong, we're here to do a job, and that job probably would work better if we killed Ada, so let's just kill Ada. While Baldroy was less than enthused by that, and now we have Knox checking his watch, and flipping through his Reaper book. It does seem like someone, probably Ada, might die very soon, perhaps at Lau's hands. Anyway, Ada goes on. Ada starts to speak, going into her own little mini flashback. Hopefully not a full page thing, or a full, chapter thing. As Ada explains, after I returned from Sudan, I was relieved of my duties, and began working as a nurse at a suburban sanatorium. Did the concept of the suburbs exist in the 1880s? Because in my mind, suburbia is a very, 1950s invention, but it also might be way off base here. I'm in no way an expert on the history of the suburbs. Especially the suburbs in England, but whatever. Anyway, we see, Ada in flashback in this sort in this sanatorium, and it's kind of disgusting. And as Ada goes on, but the work in my home country is no different from that in the battlefields. Nightingale being hailed as an angel, but a touching tale of a faraway land people gossiped about during breaks. Right, because Florence Nightingale played some role in Ada's hang-ups, right? Or Ada's backstory or something. Again, one of the many, 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 many problems with the way Yana has started structuring this story is that, it feels like there's an assumption that we're all super well versed in what happened 8 or 9 months ago, and I'm just not. But anyway, Florence Nightingale being one of the founders of modern medicine or something. But with all that, oh right, because she was doing things with the caring for soldiers that Ada would sort of end up copying with this sanatorium. And so we see the old ways prevailed, as Ada explains. I fought with my colleagues and doctors at the sanatorium, and urged them to put into practice the nursing Nightingale advocated, but they only treated me as a nuisance. And we see as a result, she's as a result of her sort of standing up for her patients, She's left to, like, scrub the floors, like, given these menial tasks. Ada goes on, I moved from sanatorium to sanatorium. And we see her arrive at the Karnstein Hospital. I don't think that name's meant to ring any bells. It was then. How about you realize the more healthy way of nursing? The one who asked me that was a doctor who was an Aurora Society member. Right, I'm trying to remember what all... Was Ada... Do we have any notion Ada was involved in the Aurora Society? Because I feel like that we might have known that. Or the doctor might have been Knox. Knox wasn't involved... No, Knox tried to... Knox was like an anti-Aurora Society, right? It's been a long time since Campania. Let me see if I can do a quick little... Let me see if I can, like, work out from the wiki real fast what was going on with her backstory already. Started as a nurse in the Sudan campaign. She witnessed hell. And this is part of this chapter stuff. So all we really knew is that Ada served as a nurse in the Sudan campaign where she witnessed hell and was incapable of letting the troops die in peace. She returned to her country, consumed with guilt and shame, and was relieved of her duties. So yeah, basically, there was some mention of Nightingale, but like wasn't a big part of the backstory we learned in the past. I think, again, this is what happens when you take months off of your main story. But anyway, I'm not sure if I'm going to do a quick little Command F for Aurora Society stuff. No, I don't think we've had any mention of Ada in the Aurora Society yet. Though, like, it makes sense. Given what we know about her giving blood to Undertaker, who was the man behind the Aurora Society. For people who are, like, who have been able to keep up with this much better than I have, this probably just feels like a lot of needless rambling. But anyway. Baldroy, we see, is shocked to hear Ada mention the Aurora Society. So yeah, if I had gone down a line, I might have realized she had not mentioned the Aurora Society yet. But Ada just sort of head in hands in, like, shame. I jumped at the opportunity. I thought I'd finally be able to practice my ideal way of nursing care. Their condition for building Athena Sanatorium for former servicemen was that we collect blood from our patients. They claimed the blood would be used as specimens for new medical research. I had my doubts, but I decided to ignore them, as my dream was about to come true. Though also, how long ago was this? Because, like, did the Aurora Society still exist post-Campania? Did they mostly die there? Let me see if I can find any notion on the wiki that they're still active. History after the fall. Undertaker used the Aurora Society to found several locations as fronts. Okay, so all of these locations are somewhat based in the Aurora Society, I think is what the wiki is saying here. Yeah, the organization was seemingly abolished in the aftermath of the Campania, but it's also still kind of around. I'm guessing, given the wiki mentions that Karnstein Hospital was attached to the Aurora Society, which I should have remembered at some point, I'm assuming that this all started before the Campania happened. That Athena Sanatorium was built before the luxury liner arc, given that Karnstein is still there when she talks to the guy, the doctor. But anyway, I had my doubts, but I decided to ignore them as my dream was about to come true. However, and we see the newspaper article from way, way back when, revealing the truth of Sphere Music Hall. When I read the news about Sphere Music Hall in a newspaper, I knew this sanatorium was also involved. And what did I do? And we see her throw the newspaper in the trash. I still turn a blind eye to it, so I could protect this place. But, you know, at that point, like, the people aren't dying from blood loss. They're just, like, losing a little bit of blood and getting better health care. It's easy to understand why Ada would make this choice, is what I'm saying. But then, the amount of blood they demanded sharply increased a little while ago. I pleaded with them I would not be able to guarantee my patient's health if we drew so much blood. but they insisted they would stop funding the sanatorium if their demands were not met. So we're seeing, though, things are starting to get out of hand. And Ada is very clearly not happy with that. As we see... Actually, hold on. Let me see. What is Baldroy wearing right now? Because we see... I assume this fist we see on this page here is Ada's fist. The veins popping in the sort of dark, long sleeve. But then all of a sudden the veins are gone and she's like holding her head. So maybe that's Baldroy if Baldroy is wearing a dark, long sleeve shirt. Ada is. That's more likely. We haven't gotten a lot of Baldroy's hands this chapter. In this first page, with Knox looking in on them, it looks like he's in like a dark jacket, but too dark for the hands. So I think that is Ada's hand, and I am rambling. I know, I can hear it too. No one really cares about whose hand that is. Anyway, inflicting harm on our patients is out of the question, but I cannot save a single patient without the funds. I do not know what I should do. So yeah, comparing this sort of gray morality to the Baldroy thing, I'm much more sympathetic to Ada, I think. Like, what happened to Baldroy is terrible, but even he acknowledged he had gone, like, way too far. Whereas what Ada's going through here is like, yeah, do I risk some patients' lives to save the greater many? Or do I try to protect the patients in the short term and in the end give them terrible medical care that kills them anyway? There's not really a good answer. But Baldroy picks up a gun and points it at Ada. I was given one command. If you find evidence of blood collection, thoroughly dismantle the operation. So he is sort of adding on to the sort of stuff Lau was saying a year ago at this point. If things don't change, I'll be forced to slash your throat and drive out your patients like a herd of buffalo. However, and Baldroy offers an olive branch, metaphorically. If you stop collecting blood right now, I'll be your ally. And maybe, given that, like, Baldroy might have some access to, like, begging CL to help fund the place, that might work. You know, if he, like, gets the Phantom High... Once CL reclaims his throne as Earl, and actually has money again, 5 years from now, that might well work. But Ada's just taking it back. And Baldroy goes on, there's nothing wrong with your dreams and efforts. I could tell that by looking at my fellow patients. And we see the patients being happy in this, like, sanatorium that actually gives a damn about them. Baldroy goes on, will you promise me you'll never betray your principles again and never give blood to Aurora Society anymore? And Ada just, like, clenches her jaw before declaring, I promise. And Baldroy puts the gun away. That's a good answer. Then we'll get moving right away. When's the next blood collection? So this is going much more peacefully than the whole incident at Heathfield Manor. Which is like, if these arcs are going to be the rest of all our lives, at least Yana is having some variety with them, I guess. But anyway, Ada just tells him, tomorrow. What? Then I'll do something about it. And Baldroy calls back to Ada, we still don't know what Knox is doing with all this information. Keep working like you always do. I will. And Baldroy leaves the room, meaning Knox must have left at some point, but who knows at what point he left. And Baldroy runs down the stairs thinking, I don't have time to ask for young master's instructions. I need to find a way to stall. And then he gets the sudden shock, and these knives come around him, barely missing him. And then one knife is right up against his cheek, held by... technically we only see his mouth first, but it's pretty obvious who it is. So that is your answer? And it's Lau, of course. I am disappointed in you, Master Cook. To be continued. Okay. So this being a Black Butler chapter, it is still too short. There's still like too few pages, whatever. But the actual content we get is good. The Ada flashback, it's not a big flashback in the way that like Baldroy's flashback or Mei Rin's flashback, or even Ron Mao's little mini a day ago flashback from the end of the Mei Rin arc. It's really just there to tell us the information we need to know and then move on, like a flashback should be. And it's easy to see why Ada would make the choices she makes. Every single thing in this flashback is set up to, like, frame how Ada came to the decision to still be running the sanatorium, even after she realized the problems with it. And also to set up her eventual decision to follow Baldroy's requests, which could have ended up going really well for everyone. Maybe it still will, though whatever the fuck Knox is up to is still kind of questionable. Unfortunately, Lau's not really on board with this. Lau, I don't know why Lau wants to just go, it seems like, at least, to be fair, we don't have enough of what Lau's thinking here. Lau doesn't say enough for us to definitively say what Lau is going to do now, but it sure seems like Lau is saying he's going to kill Ada. And I'm not quite sure why. There's no reason for it. Maybe Lau just wants to kill Ada for no real reason, just because he likes killing people. I don't know. He is something of a crime boss. Or maybe he's just going to be, like, disappointed that he can't kill Ada now that Ada's, like, ending the blood collection on her own. I don't know. It's kind of unclear there. But still, now that we're back in the present, there's plenty of, I'm back to being kind of invested in this subplot. It's far, even when the Mei Rin stuff was not mired in her flashback, it still wasn't, terribly engaging. It wasn't great. It was fine enough, I guess, if you, read it all together instead of, 15 pages a month. But it was never really, even without a year plus of Mei Rin flashbacks, it was never great. This feels like it could be great. It has a good, moral quandary at its center. Again, it's being a Black Butler subplot has been mired in almost a year-long flashback that sort of killed all narrative momentum. But still, there is some good stuff here. I'm really engaged in the moral dilemma of Ada's whole backstory. I'm hoping Lau does not end up killing Ada. And I'm excited to see exactly what's going on with Lau and with Knox. There's a lot of, again, interesting shit here that I'm excited to see where we're all going. Even if, at any moment, I'm still kind of scared Yana will just decide to throw us into a flashback again anyway and fuck everything up. Who knows? We'll see going forward, I suppose. But for now, optimism. That's what I'm saying. Optimism. And with that, I'm going to leave this video off here. Hope you all enjoyed the chapter and the video itself. If you did, feel free to drop me a like or subscribe or, do whatever makes you happy, And as always, your life is your own, okay? Bye!